to today's session. Thanks, Jen, for starting the recording. I just wanted everyone to know that my name is Cathy Burrell, and I'm the Client Services Coordinator here at WeBC. I just want to acknowledge before we get started that we are gathered here today on the traditional and unceded territory of the Okanagan Syilx people. We recognize, honor, and respect the presence of Indigenous people, past, present, and future. Okay, so Jen started the recording. I want you all not to worry about the fact that you don't have to take notes during the session because you will get a copy of this recording afterwards. I invite all of you as well, if you want to type into the chat what traditional territories you're located in. Jen is going to type that in right now. There's actually a little map that you can take a look and see. Okay. I just want to let everyone know what we're offering today. WeBC offers business loans up to $150,000. We provide support for your small business journey. We offer financing to get your businesses started and operating capital to fuel your growth. We offer more flexibility than traditional lenders because we take a holistic approach and provide loans based on your business's viability, not based on formulas. So this means we provide loans to a diverse range of women-owned businesses and support you with integrated services, including complimentary training, mentoring, and business advising. So really, that's the headline for WeBC. If you were to get a loan with us, we would provide you with those complimentary services for the entire length of your loan. From essential business skills development to personalized business advice, we offer the right questions to ask, or we know the right questions to ask and the right resources to connect you with. In our mentoring programs, you can connect with a network of women entrepreneurs and experts around BC who can support and inspire you. You can learn more about all of our services at www.we-bc.ca. And we'd really love you to sign up for our e-blast to get notified of our new programs, as we've got a ton of new offerings always, but especially closer to Christmas. Okay. So that's me. I'd like to welcome our panelists for today. We're still letting a few people in. We've got almost 200 people registered for this webinar today. So Jen's just about finished that process, but I just want to welcome our panelists today. We've got Patrick Smith and Danielle Sera, and they're both going to be presenting. Today's webinar is basically we are going to be talking about navigating the world of insurance. And it might not be the most exciting part of your business, but it's an essential part in protecting the growth and potential of the businesses that you have worked so hard to build. So today, WeBC is hosting the BCAA Small Business Insurance team for a crash course on what small business insurance is, the different coverages that are available for your unique business needs, and how insurance can protect you. So now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Patrick and Daniel. Take it away, gentlemen.
You're muted, Daniel.
There we go. Thanks, everybody. So to start talking about small business insurance, just one thing we want to put out there is that if you ever hear me or Pat say commercial insurance, that is the same thing. So the general topic is commercial insurance for small businesses. And just so you know, any time throughout the presentation, if you wanted to enter a question or a comment in the chat or anything you want to have us elaborate a bit more on, that's totally fine. And we'll try to address all the questions as we go, but we will have some time at the end for anything that we've missed or any new questions that come up. And so Cathy has introduced me. I'm Dan, the Senior Field Adjuster for Small Business Claims. And then we also have Patrick Smith with us, and he's one of our Senior Insurance Advisors specializing in small business insurance. So why? We can go to the next slide there. We can talk about how BCAA can help. And one thing just to let you guys know about right now is that if you do apply online, going through the online tool to start putting a policy together, and you use the promo code here, then you will be able to get $50 off your first year's premium. And as well, if you're a member, or even if you became a member while you were doing the online process, you'll be able to save up to 10% on your premium as well. And so yeah, we can go to the next slide. All right. And I guess before we get too far into it, a disclaimer that all of the material in this presentation is for general information purposes, and it does not or not intended to be legal or insurance advice. Okay, thank you. Thanks for listening, guys. And so, um, if we can take a look at this one, the numbers here, what we found out was that 25% of BC businesses are either underinsured or not even insured at all. And so, and as well to find out that in BC, 90% of all the businesses based in the province are small businesses. So BCA saw a need there to make the process a bit easier. And we all realize insurance, it just isn't one of those things that we really want to think about or spend too much time worrying about, but it's something that every business does need at some point. And so we designed the online small business insurance product with a way to do the whole process online. And it's pretty straightforward. And if you ever have any questions throughout the way, throughout the process, you can stop it and enter into a chat to speak with one of the advisors, just like Pat. And so, before we just hand it over to Pat, I would say that the topic of his presentation is going to be telling us all about the different main subject areas of a commercial insurance policy. Okay, there we go. Ready for Pat, your turn.
All right, thanks, Dan. Welcome, everybody. Like Dan was saying there, my name is Patrick Smith, and I'm a senior commercial advisor with BCAA. Yeah, so we're going to take you through hopefully some of the reasons I can show you and convince you that how small business insurance is going to be an advantage to you, and really try to show you how important it is that it's like a silent partner in your business. Yeah, let's get into it. So when we're talking about insurance, you really got to think, what's the purpose of it? And it's really kind of a threefold thing. It's really to reduce risk, protect financial uncertainty, and manage accidental loss. So yeah, when you're setting up a business, there's multiple ways to do it. There's sole proprietorship, corporation, partnerships, and just a myriad of other types there. But yeah, today we'll explore some of the most common ones, and we'll start with sole proprietorship. So yeah, sole proprietorship is it's pretty simple to set up. It's pretty much just you operating the business. Doesn't require any legal setup, or you don't need to hire lawyers to set it up for you. You bear all the financial and liability responsibility for that business. There's some tax advantages for sole proprietorships, but you'll find there's more on the corporate side. But under a sole proprietorship, what I want to mention, some of the important thing is that because it's a sole proprietorship, any lawsuit that comes against your business, it will come against you personally. Okay, so they're going to go after your assets, they're going to go after your savings, they're going to go after your lifetime earning potential. So we'll get into a little bit further as we get along, but you'll see how important the commercial general liability is important to a small business, especially a sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorships, they can have operating names. It could be your name operating as something like, Wilmo Flintstone operating as Wilmo's Consulting Service. So yeah, you may have to do a little search on the name there, operating name, just to make sure no one else is using it, but it's pretty simple to set up and get going. On the corporation side, it is a legal entity in itself, and it does have different advantages and than a sole proprietorship does. It has its own perpetual existence in itself. It can borrow money, it can buy assets, it can hire employees, it can take out loans. It's in itself is a legal entity. And it's similar to what a sole proprietorship is. Like it can do everything you can do pretty much in its own capacity. The only difference is that it separates you from the corporate entity. And you essentially become an employee of the corporation through like a director or an officer, as a director and officer. Has better access to capital. That's one of the advantages of it. Has a lower tax rate, has limited liability. Like I said, they go after the assets of the corporation versus going after you personally. And it has a lifetime capital gains exemption too for corporate entities as well. So yeah, explore those things and just see what's right for you. Partnerships, they're similar to a sole proprietorship, and there's just more than one of you. It could be 2, 4, 6 of you operating the business, and you'll commonly see this with family operations. There'll be 4 or 5 family members operating a business, and they may have an operating name, like Joe's Market, and all the family members are working in the market. Other types, there's like LLCs, limited liability corporations, where it does require a lawyer to set up, and it's like a legal contract. It's a contractual obligation between the partners that they have between each other, and they operate the business that way. And you'll commonly see this with professionals like doctors' offices and law offices and engineers and architects, where they'll lease a space or own a space under the LLC, and they'll hire front-end staff to service that. And then the medical doctors themselves will have their own incorporated entity for their medical practice or their legal practice, but the LLC will run the front end. So that's a scenario where that works. And then there's other things like nonprofits that you can set up as well. So yeah, explore those and see what's out there. And as you grow, you'll probably just eventually get into those different types of entities anyway. So yeah, the next slide there, please. So small business helps in different ways. It could be damage caused to others. It could be theft or damage to your own business. It could be a loss of income because of a peril. And when we're talking about perils, we get that asked a lot, though. What's a peril? So a peril essentially is just an insurance term for an event that can cause bodily injury or property damage. And it could be things like a fire or a theft or a flood or earthquake. These are examples of perils. Yeah, so the next slide there. So coverage types. So coverage types will vary depending on the size and scope of your business. One of the questions we were asked earlier was, well, I just operate a small business at home. Do I need all this stuff? And you may not, or you may, right? Depends on the size of your business. So yeah, you could add contents in stock, you could add loss of income, tools and equipment, commercial liability, which forms the foundation of all policies. And if you're a professional, you may need some professional liability. So we'll explore some of those as we get along. So like I said, commercial general liability is the foundation of all policies. You're not likely going to find a property-only policy. They're usually built upon a commercial general liability. And commercial general liability is very broad and it has many, many sections in there. But today we're going to focus on more of the basic ones and what we call the injury sections. So we have bodily injury, we have property injury, we have personal injury, and we have advertising injury. And then we have medical expenses, which is a follow form that follows the bodily injury. And then we have the legal defense costs. So yeah, getting into it. So bodily injury, like I said, it's a physical injury to someone's body that someone gets hurt because of your business operations. But it's even broader than that. It includes things like sickness and disease and mental anguish and mental shock and mental injury. Even death can be picked up under this section. When we're talking about bodily injury, a lot of times we get asked, well, does this protect me if I'm hurt on the job? And that's a good question. And we get that asked a lot. It doesn't. So if you're hurt on the job, you tend to have WorkSafe BC would be something that you would apply for, or you can get private insurance that can cover you for getting hurt on the job. So this covers third party. So everything under the commercial liability section is covering third party and not yourself per se. Medical expenses. Yeah, like I said, it's a follow form to bodily injury, and we call it incidental medical. So it picks up smaller bodily injuries like trips and falls, that sort of thing, and it can without any legal action and regardless of fault, and it usually has a lower limit, like around $25,000. So yeah, so for instance, if someone comes to your home-based business and they maybe trip and fall on your sidewalk during that visit, and they hurt themselves, sprain their ankle or break their leg, so you call an ambulance, and an ambulance shows up, and they're going to ding you $350, and then you're going to call they're going to take them to the hospital, and there's going to be attending physician fees. Maybe there's going to be ambulance costs. There's going to be, maybe they need blood work, or maybe they need to get x-rays, that kind of thing. So we'll pick up all those things under this section. You just get them looked after, phone it in and get them looked after, and we'll be glad to do that. And that prevents lawsuits. Personal injury, unlike bodily injury, is more of a mental injury. It covers things like social wrongs, like humiliation, discrimination, or defamation of character or reputation. And it picks up other things as well. It's broad as well. Everything under the commercial liability is very broad, and it's a real advantage to small businesses. Things like false arrest can be picked up under here, or malicious prosecution. Or if you're your landlord out there, it picks up like wrongful entry and wrongful eviction. And advertising injury. This is kind of a hot spot nowadays, because thinking about 10 years ago or even further, advertising injury wasn't as prominent as today. Everybody's on social media. And whatever you do now, it's out there and it's hard to take back. So this is a very important section under the commercial general liability for small businesses. I'm going to broadly read what the definition of social media is, because it's so broad. What it means is, broadly means any platform, website, or application that permits users to share information or content or participate in social networking. Social media includes things like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, messaging platforms and communities like WhatsApp, Reddit, and other messaging apps, blogs and video sharing platforms like YouTube, Zoom, Teams, Vimeo, interactive electronic forms such as electronic newsletters, online forums, chat rooms, message boards, and even online webinars. So yeah, you got to be careful when you're doing your advertising. It may not, you don't want to be using someone else's advertising in your advertising. And it might not be you who's doing the advertising for you. It might be your brother-in-law, your sister-in-law. It could be your spouse, or even your employee doing the advertising. And it could be like, hey, Dad, I seen this wonderful ad that someone's posting on social media that's similar to your type of business, and they're getting like 40 hits a minute. I think we should mirror it and get you some business. And you do, and 30 days later, you're slapped with an infringement lawsuit. So yeah, you gotta be careful. You don't want to be using other people's either their trademarks or slogans or intellectual property, things like literary or artistic works, designs, symbols, and those kinds of things in your advertising. But yeah, it's a very important section for small businesses because I don't know anybody who's not advertising on social media nowadays for small businesses. So yeah, be careful. Legal defense costs. This is a very important section, and this is my pitch when I'm talking to people about commercial liability is why do I need commercial liability? And again, this is probably the most important one. If you think the cost of legal defense costs nowadays,
Are you accountable for the Google registration form for the November 12th event? Question mark.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that question. Well, I guess it's someone else. Yeah, so when it comes to legal defense costs, if you think the cost of to hire a lawyer to defend you if you're brought into a lawsuit, it's pretty expensive, you know. And here's my pitch. You know, I always say to people, well, you could spend $1,000 an hour for a defense attorney to defend you in the event of a lawsuit, or you can spend $1,000 a year and get a commercial general liability that's going to protect you. And we'll get a little bit more into it, and as we go along, as why the importance of commercial general liability for your small business. So property usual to your business. Yeah, so once now you got the commercial liability set up on your policy there, now you can add property. And it could be anything usual to your business. So it could be stock and contents if you run a retail store or you have an office or even your home office. It could be buildings if you're a landlord out there. It could be improvements and betterments if you're leasing a space. It could be all your electronic gadgets, you know, whether it's on premises or if it's on if you're mobile. It could be property of others if you work on other people's property. Could be tools and equipment there if you're a contractor. And yeah, anything usual to your business can be added on there under the property section. It could be mobile or fixed locations. So it could be a brick and mortar store or your home office that you're working out of. Or you could be mobile, you know, like consultants and contractors who are moving around from job site to job site all the time. So either way, we can there's a property that we can add on there that can be mobile or a fixed location. Professional liability. So typically on a policy, you're going to see different sections. So there'll be a property section, there'll be a specialty section, and a liability section. So under the specialty section, this is where professional liability can be added in there. So if you're giving advice to people in any kind of capacity, you know, like we have obviously professionals who give advice. We have travel agents who give advice, or anybody who gives advice to a customer. You may need something called an errors and omissions liability. And this is going to cover you for financial harm that you do to a client. So the commercial general liability picks up physical risks like bodily injury and property damage, and the professional liability picks up financial risks that you can cause to someone else's business. So typically we pay like penalties, settlements and fines, legal defense costs can be picked up under this thing. So if you're brought into a lawsuit because of something you said, didn't say, should have said, failed to perform under a contract, the professional liability would pick that up.
Hey, Pat. We got a good question in the chat from Kim, and it's asking, how would you insure this kind of scenario? So Kim typed in, I have incorporated a business and thinking of starting another service business, but not associated with the primary business. And how would that secondary business be able to fall under the same incorporation? And if so, how would we ensure that?
Yeah, good question. So you have a legal entity and you're operating multiple different types of services. So when you're applying for insurance, the underwriters, what they want to see is that they're going to ask you under a corporate entity, do you run any other types of businesses or services under that corporate entity? And if you say yes, then they're going to say, okay, well, we need the specifics on each one. From an insurance perspective, the underwriters need to underwrite all your services. So if you have, you're running a consultancy service under one service, and you're running a construction company under another one, and maybe you're doing snow removal under the third operation there, they have to be able to write all three of them under that corporate entity. Just because under the commercial general liability, it doesn't distinguish between the entity itself. It applies to services. So if you're running, let's say you own an apartment building under the corporate entity, and you're a contractor running a service business, so that commercial liability could actually pick up the exposures under the property, because it's so broad. So that's why they need to underwrite each service individually. So yeah, I hope that helps you.
That's actually, there's a follow-up question that's pretty related to that. Shireen has put into the chat that she's starting a virtual health coaching business, hiring individuals as contractors, and we were wondering what kind of insurance would be needed there, and the business is set up as a partnership.
All right, so you're running the partnership there. So when it comes to sub-trades, you'll be responsible for asking them that they have proof of insurance. Any sub-trades who are not actual employees need to carry their own liability, for one. So if you're running a general business where you're hiring outside help to do the services, then we'll ensure the actual service that you're providing, and any sub-trades that are contracted to you, they'll be required to have their own liability. And that'd be one of the questions the underwriter will ask. Hope that answers your question. If not, you can always email us and we can get more specific to your type of business and what you're doing, and we could give you some advice there. All right, next slide. All right, so do I need small business insurance? So hopefully I can convince you why it's important. So when I'm talking about insurance to people, I always say to them, look, think of this as your silent partner, okay? It's going to be the most economical partner you're going to have, and for certain, it's going to be the most valuable partner that you're going to have in your small business. So if your business was to cause damage to a third party, are you protected against a potential lawsuit? Yeah, like I said, defense costs are very expensive. You can spend, $500 an hour, or you can buy a commercial liability policy to help you out there. Do you operate your business out of a commercial space, like a shop or garage, warehouse, or office? Yeah, in that scenario, it might not be you who dictates the insurance. It might be the landlord, or it might be mortgagee who dictates that the type of insurance you have to have and the limits you have to have for that particular space. So yeah, it's not always you who gets to decide on the insurance limits. It might be someone else that's doing it. But yeah, if you're working out of a commercial space or a garage or office, then yeah, you'd want to make sure that you're covered just in case clients come in there and trip and fall or hurt themselves. And like I said, it might be a least requirement that you have to have these things as well. Do you have equipment that could be too expensive to replace in the event of a claim? Yeah, we're not talking $2,000 or $3,000 of stuff that you may be out of pocket. It might be tens of thousands as you grow, or hundreds of thousands, and it's not so easily be able to out of pocket. So yeah, think of insurance, like I said, as a partner. It's the most economical way that you're going to be able to protect all your assets and your future growth. I mean, the whole point of going into business in the first place is to make money, and you don't want that to be jeopardized by a claim that's going to ruin that for you. Would an equipment breakdown significantly impact your ability to do business? Yeah, depending on the type of business that you operate. I had a hotel back in the day, a few years ago, that suffered a business interruption. Their power supply got hit from out in the street, and it knocked out their phone systems, and all their booking systems were knocked out during a surge, and it cost them a lot of money. and they were down for about a week or so. And good thing they had equipment breakdown coverage there through EB policy, and they had loss of income. So, you know, they were able to recover and get back in business pretty quick and rebook all those people, but you know, saved them a lot of money. If your business had to shut down unexpectedly, would you have the adequate savings to support yourself? Yeah, no, all of us have big fat bank accounts. You know, we can't always out of pocket all these things. And like I said, a small business insurance is the most economical way to do that. You know, you save your own personal assets and you rely on the small business insurance to help you out there. Do you collect customers' information? Yeah, so under in North America, under the commercial general liability, we do include a little bit of cyber coverage, but it's expense only. It doesn't cover any defense costs. So if you're brought into a lawsuit, so if you are collecting customers' information and you know, it's highly sensitive, you might want to consider getting a standalone cyber policy. And these are usually done through like specialty insurers who do that, and they include all the defense costs in there. And yeah, it's important. Yeah, lawsuits nowadays because of cyber breaches, you know, they're more common now than ever. Our clients ask to see proof of insurance. Yeah, all the time. You know, reputable businesses want to deal with other reputable businesses. Consultants, they get asked for proof of liability before they can go on someone else's property. Same with contractors. You know, and we'll issue certificates for them that they can hand out to their clients as proof of liability. Does your business goal include future growth? Yeah, well, I hope so. That's the whole purpose of going in business in the first place, you know, is to provide an income for yourself, maybe a retirement or maybe a legacy to hand over to your children and keep it going, right? So do you run your business out of a home? Yeah, back in the day, there was something called a small business package you could add to home insurance. And these are more and more now being graduated over or grandfathered over to a commercial business section. It's because the liability under the home insurance was really not meant to pick up commercial exposures. You can see how broad a commercial general liability is. You know, they have advertising injury, personal injury, all the bodily injury there, and property injury sections. So yeah, under the home insurance, it wasn't really meant to pick that up. And more now, you're seeing insurers moving and graduating those people over to the commercial side. So yeah, like I said, explore your home insurance, talk to your advisors, see what they're offering you there. But if they can't accommodate your business exposures under the home side, we'll be glad to look at under the commercial side and make sure you're set up there. You know, and knock on wood that you never have to suffer a claim or go through that. But it's good to know that you have a reputable insurer like BCAA is going to stand behind you and back you during that claim process. And I can't think of anybody better than our own claims guru, Daniel Sera, to explain that process to you. And yeah, take it away, Dan.
All right. Thank you, Pat. So we've got a really active chat with lots of questions, which is great. And so I would say that if there's anything that we couldn't get to, then please, when we're done, if you wanted to repeat it, or hopefully we can have a chance to look back through the chat and retrieve them all. But in any case, as now that Pat has told us all about the main subject areas of a commercial insurance policy, we're ready to talk about what happens if you needed to use these coverages. So something goes wrong, and this can happen whether you work from home or mostly on the road or even have your own office. And so at first, if we could just take a look at the general claims process here, which is this is what would happen anytime you need to call us, even if it's an inquiry about coverage. And so the first step, reporting the claim, that's when you would just give us a call to let us know what happened. And to be ready to do that, you would put together just gather the information, thinking of it as like the general W5H of the situation. And then sometimes you call in, you report your claim, you speak to maybe something like a front desk staff member, and then that person would connect you with an adjuster like myself. And so then when I've looked over the claim and getting myself ready to give you a call, then in that first conversation, we would review the information we have so far, and then find out if there's anything else we needed or any areas we wanted to get more details about, just so that we can make sure how much coverage there is under the policy. And so that's the next step. That's now we're off the phone, and I'm looking over all the information we've gathered, and basically I am comparing the chain of events that happened, what got damaged, and what kind of damage is it, and using that to compare against the policy, all the different sections, to find a place where we can cover this kind of either cost or damage or repairs. And then if we are able to confirm coverage, then that's the next step, would be quantifying the amount that can be covered. And so if say, for example, it was a store and there was some kind of big water damage, then we would have damage to, possibly the building itself, all of your inventory, if it's a retail type store, or stock, or even equipment, your office desk, the computer you use, anything like that. We'd be asking for invoices or receipts for purchases of any of these your medium or bigger ticket items. If you had to shut down the store because of the damage being so bad, then there would be a chance to use something called the business interruption insurance. At BCAA, the coverage that we have is called profits, and that's for example, short-term shutdown. We'd look at lost revenue and calculate a percentage of what would be the lost profits. But then again, even for longer claims, sometimes a business has to shut down for several months or even longer. And in those cases, there's a way that we can use the policy to address the prospective future earnings. So that would even take into account the potential growth of the business, looking at the past trend and seeing what would the future have been if this shutdown didn't happen. So that was a good form that we brought in, and I like looking at that one because it's sort of future proofing the income loss, and it's a pretty valuable one. And that, and again, that can be anything from a few days to a year or more. And then at the point where we're ready to settle the claim, it can just take a few different forms. And that could be a lump sum payment to you, or scheduled payments if we're looking at the business interruption and doing it monthly. When there's repairs to be done, we generally pay the contractor directly. And then in a liability claim, most often we are paying the injured party directly, or their insurance company. Okay, thanks. Sorry, I took a little longer in that one, but we are definitely ready for the next slide. Okay. And so we've got a few different scenarios of common business types that we've seen, and these are from what's come across the application portal online. So these are all types of businesses that have talked to us about insurance coverage. And so looking at for something like a hair salon, which also could be at home or in a studio, like in a commercial space somewhere. And you might remember Pat mentioning commercial general liability about a dozen or 24 times throughout his presentation there, and that's because we do truly believe it is the foundation. It's one of the most important things, because a small problem could always end up bigger than we expect, and the costs involved, if we're considering lawyers and or anyone who we might need to consult with, is just so much to bear. And so the commercial general liability would be able to cover that type of thing. And then when we're talking about the next coverage example that we've put on the list there, commercial building contents and stock. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this one is that even if you operate your business out of home, or even if you're renting a space and you don't own a building in a commercial space, the building contents and stock coverage is still useful because of that contents and stock portion. The building portion would even still come in if you're a tenant, if you had done any of your own renovations or changes to the layout, that kind of thing. And so with any of the tools or equipment or supplies that you have, that would go under the contents and stock. And then loss of income, we talked about just briefly before. That was the business interruption coverage. And then the reason why we included crime in the list is because specifically the topic of money. Say you have a retail store and the bank deposit hasn't been dropped off, and this was a good busy day, and there could be a few $1,000s worth of cash or other financial instruments, and that gets stolen under the basic commercial building contents and stock policy. There's always a limit, and so if and sometimes that limit with BCAA, for example, it's $1,000. With other companies, there's 500. There's some where you can increase it, but without the crime coverage, you would be subject bound to that limit. And so then really briefly, we can take a look at some scenarios here. And that is just to give you an idea of how to connect the problem to the coverage. So a slip and a fall, for example, because of hair on the floor or anything like that, that would be a commercial general liability claim under the bodily injury coverage. And then say, for example, hair dye stains on a handbag or anything that a customer might bring in with them. If it gets damaged by staff or employees, then it would also come in under the commercial general liability. And then the last one, very quick, windows broken by vandalism. That type of claim goes back to the commercial building contents and stock. All right, we can go to the next one. Okay, and so building cleaning, and just as trivia for you, I think I've already had about not quite a dozen, maybe 10 or 11 claims like this just in the last year or so. And because it can be so quick and easy for damage to happen, something like knocking over a strong cleaner that could damage the floor. A specific example I have for you is that a cleaner was being used, a cleaning solution that was supposed to be diluted, and then accidentally one of the employees didn't dilute it and cleaned a very, very fancy, expensive stove, a stove that had a replacement cost over $10,000 because all the enamel had basically been dissolved by this cleaner. So, and those are the cases where we have a couple forms to sign once we've reached the value of it and quantified the claim. And that's the one where I paid it directly to the homeowner who owns the stove. And so the other new coverage that we've put on this list here, that tool or equipment floater, is because you can think of sort of two categories of property coverage. Coverages at your premise and coverages that follow you wherever you go. So the building contents and stock only covers you at the address listed on the policy. And then that would be considered your business's premises. And then if you go to do work at job sites or people's homes or other businesses, then you need the kind of coverage that would basically come with you. And that's anything that you can see that has the word floater in it would be that type of coverage. So tool or equipment, equipment is such a broad category when you look at the definition under an insurance policy. Equipment can mean pens and pencils and notepads in your office, or it could be power tools that you bring to a job site. It could be a floor waxer if we're talking about the building cleaning type of equipment. So equipment is very this tool and equipment floater is good for that because it's got a very broad definition of what can be insured. And so if you are say you've left some equipment overnight and then it gets stolen, or even if you would have equipment in your car and you locked it up, you took all your security measures, and your car is parked anywhere off premises, even if you're out for lunch, and it gets broken in the parking lot, that's when you would still need that tool and equipment floater. And then damage caused to a client's home, very much the same as the previous slide we had. That would go back to the commercial general liability policy. Okay, next one, please. And then a professional organizer. The main difference here is that we've wanted to highlight the electronic equipment and laptops floater. And so that's because, again, it's a floater, so it's a kind of coverage that helps you out when you're doing work off premises. And the reason why we even have this type of coverage is because just as businesses become more digitized and people aren't bringing pens and papers and notepads to meet with clients anymore, as much as now you might be bringing laptops or tablets to do notes, or in this situation to show them sort of like a mock-up of what the end result might be if you're at building organization systems in a house or a business. And so that kind of thing, like tablets, laptops, we've even used this to insure photography equipment, which we have many policies come through for that type of business. And it's just because these kinds of things didn't neatly fit into the definition of contractors' tools or equipment, which is kind of the earlier, much older coverage that evolved into this one. Okay. We can bypass the scenarios and move on to the next slide there. And so in a retail or wholesale store, again, we want to always stress this every single time we talk about it, is the commercial general liability, because that can be a slip and fall because there's something in the aisles of your store, or even in front before they get in your store, if that's still your premises, or any type of situation where your employee accidentally does some kind of damage. You can think of a situation where someone might help a customer bring what they've bought to put it in the car for them, and there you go. If something happens where there's a slip or something gets dropped, then it would be, and if there's damage to the vehicle, that would still be picked up under the general liability there. And then building contents and stock, that's a fairly straightforward one, because if you are operating in a building, then according to the terms of the lease, there's always some parts of the premises that a tenant might be legally liable for. So having commercial building contents and stock coverage combined with the general liability means you'd be covered if you cause damage to parts of the premises that you're responsible for, or that you're not part of, if it's a multi-tenant space, or even your own, if you've done your own upgrades or renovations, changed the floor, or maybe added shelves or different displays, that would come in under the commercial building coverage. And then we included equipment breakdown because anytime you might have something like, for example, a freezer or a fridge, or a heavy duty boiler for hot water for a large commercial space, those kind of big pieces of equipment are not covered under a contractor's tools or equipment, or the electronics one. It would have to go to that equipment breakdown coverage because they're such large items. They have their own niche type coverage, and that can be also added on to the BCAA policy. And so that's the scenario where, for example, a power disruption causes you to shut down your business, and the fluctuation in the electricity has damaged any of these large pieces of equipment. Then we'd be bringing into play a few different parts of a policy. So that's why we always talk about it as a package, the foundation being the liability. And even if you just bought that, there's actually a few extra coverages that are automatically added onto that we can talk about later. But for example, in the power disruption in a store that might sell food, you would have the business interruption insurance help you out when your store is closed. You would have the equipment breakdown insurance to help you out if the large displays or freezers or fridges were damaged. And then you would have the building contents and stock coverage in case there's food spoilage, or the power surge has an electrical arc and some sparks damage your stock. So lots of different ways to look at the situation and figure out how can we find coverage. And that's sort of the main punchline of it, is that There's many different parts to the commercial insurance policy, much more than a home insurance policy. And so a big part of my job is comparing what happened to all the different parts of the policy to find out where it lines up. And so yeah, we can go to the next slide. So a quick sort of run through of how can the whole thing be made a bit easier, and just so that we get to the point of being able to pay you your claim settlement as soon as possible. And so even before a claim or problem that happens that you need to call us about, as you buy more stuff, especially medium or big ticket items, taking a photo of the item itself if you're buying new equipment or tools or supplies or inventory, even taking a photo of statements of account if you have one supplier who you constantly work with, or receipts that you've paid for items that you just wouldn't want to have to buy yourself to replace if it ever got stolen or damaged. Taking photos of your workspace just so that you can see what everything looks like before any bad things happen. And that's a benefit because in the moment of a claim, or even the day or two after a claim, there could be some heightened stress or emotions. It's very hard to keep track of all the details and try to remember all of the items that you would have had in your storage closet, or if it's something, a locker that you store items that you only go to 3 or 4 times a year. It's really a challenge to just put it all together. And so having photos of stuff before bad problems, big problems, small problems, anything happens, it just helps everybody. And then when there's a claim, writing down the details, everyone's name and contact information of who was involved, taking photos of the scene. I've had claims where I've had to ask people to draw sort of draw a diagram to explain who went where, how did the accident happen. It's all helpful, and there's no specific set of supporting documentation that any kind of claim would require. It's just we look at each case individually and figure out what we need together with you. And then along with that is the next point of just keeping copies of everything. And in a very easy way would be to just take a photo and save it on a hard drive in a folder that you hope to never need, but it's there if you ever have to call us for a claim. And that's the same as the next point on there is any receipts, invoices, statements. It's all helpful. Sometimes we ask for a whole bunch of things and we don't need everything that we've asked for, but it just helps complete the picture and again, gets us to that claim settlement faster. Okay, that part's done. And just as a reminder here, if you do go online, don't forget to look for and use these 2 benefits where you can get the $50 off with the promo code BCAA 50. And the other one is being able to save up to 10% on the annual premium when you include your membership during your application process. Even becoming a new member throughout the process, that's still okay too. Thanks. That's really about it for Pat and I. We still have a few minutes, and I know that Cathy will have some more to say, but if there's any questions, we can hit them now, or they can be emailed to us.
Yeah, Dan, I was just going to say it's Cathy Burrell here. Just that we've had such a great response to this presentation. We've had more than 60 items in the chat. So I would say to everybody, if we have about 5 minutes left, and if you have, I think what we learned in the presentation is that everybody's situation is really unique. So if you would, if you could email your questions directly to Dan or Patrick at BCAA, that would probably be a great thing. And then again, watch all of you are going to receive a recording of this session, and you can watch it another time. Maybe you'll have your question answered in that, but otherwise, you can contact us that way. So Dan, if you could just stop sharing your screen, I will share mine and we'll kind of see if we can wrap up. All right, so there we go. I just want to thank you, everybody. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Dan. This was such a great session. It just shows that what you thought about insurance maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago, that is different now. And as your business evolves, as your business grows, you probably need more coverage. So thank you very much for being there today. And everybody, don't worry. There will be a follow-up email tomorrow with the recording of the session, plus all the information that you'll need to get a hold of Pat or Dan. I just want to let everybody know that we've got some great smart programs here at WeBC that are on demand. So you can do them at your leisure. If you were to order HR for small business or financial fitness or strategic marketing, they're completely free until the end of December. And you have 90 days to complete the course. You'll end up with an HR plan, a marketing plan. So that's great. We've got a Mastering TikTok session coming up, which I think everybody's really interested in. And it's Women's Entrepreneurship Day on the 19th of November. We hope you celebrate with us. Thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you don't run away before we do the feedback poll. So again, if you enjoyed this session, you thought it was worthwhile to you, please fill out the feedback poll for us. And also, if you want part 2 of this session, if you want us to do this insurance session every 6 months, please put it in the feedback poll, and we take all of the information to make programming that you business owners in BC want to see. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. Please, if you could do the feedback poll, thank you to Dan, thank you to Pat. And if you guys could sign up as well for our eBlast newsletter, that would be wonderful. You would find out when we're doing more webinars, informational things that you need to know about your business, like business insurance, moving forward. So yeah, thank you everybody. And it's been a great session, and we'll see you again. Enjoy your day. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Jen is still working on the feedback poll. We had a lot of people in this session. I think we had 90 people today. So we're just finishing it off, and we'll say goodbye. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your day. And are you going to end the session?